Well, the final day of the EFL Championship season is upon us, and on Saturday lunchtime, we will resolve and answer all the remaining questions regarding the 23-24 season. Will it be Ipswich or Leeds taking second place? Will it be Norwich, West Brom or Hull who miss out on the playoffs? And at the bottom end, who's going down and who is going to survive? Will it be Huddersfield, Birmingham, Plymouth, Sheffield Wednesday or Blackburn? It's 2 from 5. It looks like maybe 1 from 4, but we're going to find out all the answers on Saturday. Before that, though, we've got to try and predict them. We're going to run through all 12 games, give our preview and prediction. And as always, I'll encourage you to get involved in the comments. Give me your score predictions for matchday 46. And if you beat or match my overall score, you will get a shout out in the next recap, which will be ahead of the playoff semi-final first legs. That episode will be out next week, Thursday. Between now and then, there's plenty more to come. We had our Premier League preview yesterday. And then over the next 3 days, there's a video every single day as we look ahead to the League One and League Two playoff semi-finals, as well as the National League final, to find out who will be joining EFL from Bromley and Solihull Moors. For now, though, before we move ahead to matchday 46, we've got to have a look back at what was, or possibly, about my worst weekend of the season, and I've saved it for right at the end. All my gambles didn't pay off, and the ones where I went for the favourites, they were the ones I should have gambled. I got 3 points. It is my worst effort. Bristol City, 1 point for the win. Same for Millwall and the draw between Hull and Ipswich. It's not a great effort, is it? And as a result, every single person in the comments drew or beat me this week. So you're all going to get a shout out. Let's run through them very quickly. In fact, no, that's not strictly true, because our Premier League matchday winner, Steve, who's so often been the leader of the pack when it comes to the championship predictions, was the only person not to match me with 2 points. So we've both had a weekend off for the penultimate day. On 3 points, though, level with me are Daniel and Chris. On 4, we've got Teo. 5, we've got Paul and Bobby, but Bobby got a perfect score. On 8 is Brian with 1 perfect score. 9, Ojo, Mello and Alex, all with 2 perfect scores. 10 points to Peter, W&G and George, 2 perfect scores across there as well. BPK, same score overall, but 3 perfect scores. Nice try on Friday night as well. 12 points to Simon, Requi and Mitchell, who all got 3 perfect scores. And then top of the table, one of the best efforts of the season, Andy, 17 points, 5 perfect scores. One hell of a match day for you. We've also got to have a quick look at midweek, where Coventry faced Ipswich. And again, I was 1 goal out, as has been the case so many times in recent weeks. On 1 point, Carl, Webbs, Divano, Adam, Steve and Dalraj all went for an Ipswich win. Whereas 5 of you, Simon, Peter, Adrian, W&G and Chris, all got a perfect score. 2-1 win for Ipswich. Well done to you. So last chance in the full regular match days for me to redeem myself this year. Let's get ahead to matchday 46, and we're going to go in alphabetical order still by the match time kickoff as we normally would. So it does mean that we've got the interesting fixtures spread out across the day. We start very much with one of them, and it is last chance saloon also for Birmingham City, who host Norwich City on the final day. This is one of the few games that's important at both ends of the table, and Birmingham will be a little bit upset, to be honest, because Norwich, after last weekend drawing against Swansea, now need a point to guarantee their place in the playoffs. Ultimately, I think they're there because of goal difference and because I'm not sure West Brom will win. But either way, it's a result that they need to get. They can't just go out and rest everyone. And that's a problem for Birmingham, who are in the relegation zone by a point, are virtually reliant on what Plymouth do, because Sheffield Wednesday and Blackburn both 3 points clear, albeit Blackburn are away at Leicester, who might want to have a title party. Sheffield Wednesday have got a far worse goal difference if they don't get a point. There is a chance it might not be Birmingham or Plymouth, but Birmingham's job is to try and win and hope that Plymouth can't do so against Hull, who have also got a win to try and topple Norwich. So these 2 games probably going to settle both the playoffs and the relegation for this weekend. We're starting with Birmingham-Norwich, which is a pretty difficult game actually, because Birmingham are 3 unbeaten. The big result for them was the draw away at Rotherham. If they'd nicked a win in that one, which they should have done, then they'd be out the relegation zone going into this, and they'd probably survive with a draw based on other results. However, that's not the case. Gary Rowett has improved them defensively. There's a real lack of intent going forward, and look, we've said this before. For the position they were in when they sacked John Eustace, and I know a few in the comments have said it was a slightly false position, and I agree with that. They weren't going to finish 5th. But they weren't going to finish 22nd, I can tell you that much. It's not the first time Birmingham have done this to themselves, but have they gone a little too far this time? Well, Norwich are in unbeaten form. They've not lost in their last 5. Their last defeat was away at Leicester City, who obviously are now the champions. They've beaten the likes of Ipswich. They've beaten the likes of Preston. They've won different types of games, and they always score goals. I think Norwich make the playoffs. I did tip them for promotion pre-season, and they got through their wobble with David Wagner. That's the value in sticking with a manager. They've been rewarded for that, and now they're in the place Birmingham were when they sacked John Eustace. I'm going to go for the 1-1 draw here, which puts Birmingham onto 48, secures Norwich in the playoffs. Then it will depend how many Plymouth lose by. So, yes, I could be going for a goal difference relegation. 1-1 is my opening scoreline. Let's move on to a game that has nothing riding on it, because one side has narrowly missed out on the playoffs in Coventry, and one side in QPR have got themselves safe with a game to spare, which I don't think they would have expected a few months ago. QPR produced their performance of the season against Leeds, who were bloody awful, by the way. But QPR were absolutely brilliant. They were front-footed, they were aggressive from the start, they took advantage of any nerves in that Leeds end, and they were thoroughly deserving winners. We mentioned before, they've played some good football and created a lot of chances at times this year, certainly under Cifuentes, but without having that real clinical goal threat. And in this game, it just all came together. And in truth, it arguably could have been more. I mean, they really were fantastic. The stats maybe tell a bit of a lie on this one. Leeds having a few chances later on, they had to throw people forward, but QPR looked like scoring every time they went in attack. And in the end, they almost did. 4-0 to them, a brilliant result. And what a way to secure your safety. As Coventry narrowly beaten 2-1 at home to Ipswich in midweek, it's all just caught up with them a little bit, hasn't it? But in truth, they've not really recovered from either the 120 minutes or the manner of the defeat against Manchester United in the FA Cup semi. Brilliant performance there, and another good season for Mark Robins. After losing Gyökeres and Hamer, they still look a good side. They're still progressing well. I'm going to go for a thriller to finish the year. Coventry will want to finish on a high. They're generally good at home. Yes, 2 narrow defeats against good sides recently. But QPR, maybe a little bit more vulnerable. 2 clean sheets in a row for them, but away from home, not been quite so solid defensively. I'm going to go for a thrilling draw to finish the season. 2-2 in a game with nothing on it. A game that has got something on it at both ends of the table is Ipswich Town versus Huddersfield. Ipswich are almost there. They are 3 points clear of Leeds, but the goal difference is going to be the worry. They must pick up a point at least, or hope that Leeds don't beat Southampton. I don't see that happening because Southampton will be resting people for the playoffs. But Ipswich, a big win away at Coventry. Really counter-attacking display, much more like the early stages of the season where they were tighter on the road. But God, they were threatening on the break. Fantastic play. Kiefer Moore's been an inspired signing in January. And Ipswich just do what they've done all year. If they go up, Kieran McKenna, manager of the season, no doubt. I mean, Danny Roll's very close in my opinion. But what a job that Kieran McKenna has done. After that 3-3 draw against Hull, it was important they found a bit of that defensive solidity again, and they very much did against Coventry City. For Huddersfield, that point against Birmingham, just not enough really, is it? They are now 3 points behind with a 15 inferior goal difference. I don't think they're going to be catching up somehow. It's been a really poor season for Huddersfield. I mean, sacking Warnock early for Darren Moore and then not sticking with Moore through the injury crisis when they were picking up odd points here and there. Both of those decisions didn't make sense to me. And while I'm a big fan of this new manager, to bring him in and ask him to change the playing style so suddenly in a relegation battle in a league he's not managed before is very difficult. Next season, I think there'll be a massive threat in League One if he stays, but ultimately that result has all but sent them down. I can't even see this being a nervy day for Ipswich because with Huddersfield's situation, if they've got any serious intent of staying up, they've got to go out and attack. They've got to be aggressive and try and score early. They might get a set piece against Ipswich because that is where their biggest threat lies for me. But I'm going to go for Ipswich to win and win handsomely. They've ended the run of draws. If they get 1 or 2 up early from Huddersfield going aggressive, they'll wipe the floor with them. I'm going massive with this prediction. I'm going to go for 5-1. A proper party in style for Ipswich Town. Let's move on to the game that everyone thought was going to be the big one. It is Leeds United versus Southampton. Leeds, well, they all but ruined their automatic promotion chances with a shocking 4-0 defeat against QPR. They've had some frustrating days in the running. The draw against Sunderland, the 1-0 at home to Blackburn. But in those games, it was just not taking chances. Against QPR, they just didn't turn up. There were warning signs defensively against Borough, but they were abysmal in that game. And Ipswich deserved second purely on that because Leeds, they threw it away when the pressure was on, and it was arguably their worst performance of the year. Southampton, 3 defeats in a row, very much preparing for the playoffs with a few rotations against Stoke. Very worried for them without Flynn Downs. They look a very different side without him. He did come off the bench in the last game, which is a good sign for the playoffs for them, but I don't think they're going to be too worried about this game. They know they're not going to be playing Leeds in the semi. They know they're going to be playing Norwich or West Brom, but they can't determine who. Could be Hull City as well. So I think they'll just rest people. I think Leeds will get a comfortable win, do their job, but I'm not sure it's enough, especially with Ipswich at home to Huddersfield. I'm going to go Leeds by 3-0, purely because I don't think Southampton will come to win. A game with no pressure on it for the home side is champions Leicester City, who host a Blackburn Rovers side that could still go down, especially if they take a heavy beating here. They've got a level goal difference with Birmingham and are 3 points ahead of them. They've got a worse goal difference than Plymouth. And although they've got a better one than Sheffield Wednesday have arguably got a friendlier fixture. So there is still a scenario where Blackburn could go down. They got a 0-0 draw at home to Coventry, which after the horror show defensively against Sheffield Wednesday was important. But once Coventry went down to 10 men, just couldn't quite take advantage, could they? I mean, the one good thing you'll say for Blackburn is they were creating bundles of chances in that game. 30 shots on goal, 8 of them hitting the target, plenty more of the ball. But look, ultimately, they weren't creating too many clear-cut opportunities and didn't really make the most of set pieces, which was a little disappointing. I think they were in double figures for corners, but didn't look like scoring from most of them. Leicester have found form when it matters most. They've responded and they've managed to secure the title. A 3-0 win at Preston, who, let's be honest, Preston and Southampton, we were expecting 2 really tough games and they've both lied down. But all credit to Leicester, they've taken advantage. And while Vardy's first finish was perhaps fortunate and his second one, he almost fell over while finishing it, he was in the right place to do what he does best and send Leicester back to the Premier League. So they will be rejoining the top 20 in the country next year. For now, though, I think they're going to go out in comfortable fashion and enjoy a party in front of their own fans. I'm going for Leicester to win this one by 2-0. And if I'm wrong with my Birmingham prediction, could be a nervy day for Blackburn Rovers. Next up is 8th v 14th. We won't cover too much of this because there's not much riding on it. It's Middlesbrough versus Watford. Watford with their first win, I think, under Tom Cleverley, a 1-0 at home to Sunderland. Really decent performance, but again, Sunderland had some of the best chances of the game on the break, while Watford were generally pretty good. On another day, they could have conceded goals. You've got to give them credit. It's 4 clean sheets in 5. Yes, the goal threat and the creation of chances isn't there, but Tom Cleverley's got something to build on in the summer. And I just hope, even from a Luton fan point of view, take that away, I just hope they give him time, because for a young manager to go in and only get 10 games, as we saw with Rob Edwards, as we've seen plenty of other times, it doesn't help anyone. So hopefully they'll give him time, let him build. And the fact that he's had a good, distinguished playing career with them will hopefully help with that. Borough, a big 4-1 win away at Cardiff. Really good performance. Just starting to knit together a little too late, isn't it? Looked a threat on the break, but just like the Leeds game, they did give up a number of chances. The only difference is Cardiff didn't take them. I think officially they had 4 clear-cut attempts, only scored 1 of them. Leeds obviously took theirs the week before, but at home, take out that Leeds game against Swansea, against Sheffield Wednesday prior. Comfortable wins, clean sheets, solid defensive efforts. And Watford don't offer much of an attacking threat. So while this game could bunk the trend, it's a final day, anything could happen. I'm going to go for Middlesbrough to win by 1-0, because the form book would probably edge towards that. Into the second half we go, and we're back to the big games, because this one is big in the battle for relegation and the playoffs. It is Plymouth Argyle versus Hull City. Hull have just got to win and hope. It's as simple as that. They need Norwich City to be defeated quite heavily, and they need West Brom to lose as well. It's interesting how the 2 games could sync up. If Hull win and if Birmingham beat Norwich, they'll both be very popular with each other for the day. But for Hull, a really good finish to the season. The unbeaten run continues with that thrilling 3-3 draw against Ipswich. Battled late on to get the equaliser. Really good game of football, to be fair. And Hull, while they didn't have as many opportunities on goal, they probably had some of the best ones of the game. I think officially it was 5 clear-cut efforts, but was a brilliant game to watch. A 3-3 draw. I would argue neither side deserved to lose it, but Hull will look at the stats and say, yeah, maybe we should have won it. For Plymouth, it's been just a dismal little run. I mentioned that celebration after the Leicester game, thinking they were almost there. Well, after a 3-0 defeat at Stoke and a 1-0 one at Millwall, the pressure returns to home park. And They've not been great at home since Steven Schumacher left. They've struggled for goals both home and away. They're not conceding quite as many as they were under previous managers, but this becomes a very nervy day. And from a selfish point of view, if Luton do go down from the Premier League, I need to tick off home park. So for that reason, I need Plymouth to stay up. I'm not sure it's going to happen though. It's going to be a very tense day. I think Hull City win this game. I'm going to go by 2-1. We'll find out from my other predictions later whether that's enough in my opinion to put Hull in the playoffs. Let's move on to another game with a little bit less pressure on it. It's Rotherham United versus Cardiff City. Rotherham obviously getting settled in with Steve Evans ready for League One. Couldn't back up their point against Birmingham. They were beaten 2-0 at Bristol City. Did offer a little more going forward, but not a great deal in truth. It's a squad that needs a big overhaul. I think you'll see probably around 15 signings coming into the club this summer. Steve Evans likes to wheel and deal anyway. I think you'll see a few changes there. Keep an eye out for Jamie Reid from Stevenage. I bet that'll be one of them. On the other side of things, Cardiff created bundles of chances against Borough. Probably enough to draw that 4-4 or win 5-4. But defensively, they look like conceding every time Borough attacked. It's not been a great finish to the season for them, but I say it again, where everyone expected them to finish, they've done really well to get to the position they have. Based on their recent form, it's been win-loss, 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 so I've got to go for win to finish off. Don't think it'll be quite as exciting because Rotherham haven't scored in their last 5 matches, don't often have a shot on target, and Cardiff haven't taken their chances in a lot of games, only scoring 1 in 4 of their last 5. I'm going to go for that trend to continue for both, and as a result, a 1-0 Cardiff win. Another game with very little riding on it is Stoke City versus Bristol City. Stoke will be relieved it's the case because Steven Schumacher has led them away with some really decent performances and results. A 1-0 win at Southampton was, well, fortunate timing in when they were coming up against them, but still they played really well. There's the same frailties at the back for Stoke. I know they've kept a couple of clean sheets in a row, but they do concede chances, and on another day Southampton could have had a couple of goals. But they're really starting to find an identity under Schumacher. And for me, that's possibly the most promising thing. But we've seen it unravel over a summer at Stoke so many times and the next season starts slowly. So for their sake, I hope they back him. I hope they give him time. To be fair, the board stuck with him when he started poorly and they fell into that relegation zone and they've got their reward. So next year could be a good year for Stoke if they back Steven Schumacher. For Bristol City, they keep the unbeaten run going. A comfortable enough win at home to Rotherham. They're a side that play really well under no pressure at all. They're in 11th place. They've got a top half finish under their belts. It's a decent effort from them. But I'm not sure they've progressed massively since Nigel Pearson left, albeit Liam Manning is starting to bring his style. And maybe since they've had nothing to play for, that's what we've seen a little bit more. Trying to keep the ball a bit better, trying to attack through central areas. And we may see a development of that next season. For this game, look, Bristol City have drawn 2 of their last 3 1-1. Stoke have drawn half of their last 6 games. 2 of them were 1-1 as well. I'm going for the Championship's favourite scoreline. 1 goal apiece in a nothing game. There's 3 to go and 2 of them are big ones. We start with Sunderland versus Sheffield Wednesday. Can I just say, Danny Roll, for getting Sheffield Wednesday to the verge of safety with a game to go, is an incredible effort. Genuinely incredible. We all thought they were gone, both after the chaos in the summer, after the start under Xisco. And if you look at the record Sheffield Wednesday have got since he's come in, they'll actually be in mid-table, which is a remarkable effort. Just fantastic job he's done, and he deserves massive credit. Whether they can keep hold of him for next year, I don't know, because I imagine there will be some very big and interesting offers for him. A 3-0 win against West Brom to back up the 3-1 win at Blackburn. Ike Ugbo has been a brilliant January signing. Josh Windass has come to the party when it matters. And while West Brom had more chances than they normally would in a game, Sheffield Wednesday were clinical, and that's something that we've not said about them an awful lot this year. They've got that real threat with that front 3 or 4 on the counter-attack. They've got options there as well. And if Danny Roll does stay, if he does get backed, I can see it being a real progression for Sheffield Wednesday. But so often, we've seen Chansiri shoot himself in the foot, and I wonder if the same will happen here. Sunderland's nothing to play for. 1-0 win at West Brom, followed by 2 1-0 defeats. They've been uninspired. They've been waiting for the end of the season, and what an opportunity at the playoffs they threw away, again, by sacking a manager who got them up there for a year and a half. Sunderland have now dropped to 15th. They've scored 1 goal in their last 5 matches, and last season under Tony Mowbray, they were one of the most exciting in the league to watch. It is a real shame. I think Sheffield Wednesday will easily get the point they need in this match. I could have gone for another 1-1 draw, I'm actually going to go for them to win because I think they've got a real attacking threat. They've got pace in wide areas. They've got Ugbo in the box. They've got players that will go up against Sunderland's weakness as well. As a result of that, added to Sunderland's lack of goal threat and clinical edge, as they showed again against Watford, I'm going to go for Wednesday to win by 2-1 and enjoy the achievement of surviving from a remarkable position. Big credit to Danny Roll. The penultimate game, nothing riding on it. Again, great news for both of these clubs because 10 games or so ago, Swansea City and Millwall both looked in a little bit of trouble. Millwall now, it is 3 1-0 wins in the last 4 wins in a row overall. Neil Harris, you have to say, has done an incredible job. I questioned Gillingham all the way back near the start of the season when they sacked him early. Yes, Cambridge won't be happy with what happened with him, but to go to Millwall and have this impact in the Championship, he's done exactly the job that's required. The big task for him and the big question is, can he evolve the side next year? Because he's come in, he's galvanised them, he's got them organised, they've done well to get out of trouble. But can he galvanise them for next year and take them to the next level? We'll wait and see. Swansea City, playing good football against some of the bottom sides of the league. Found it a bit harder defensively against Norwich, but still got a 2-2 draw, which is a very creditable result. In truth, Norwich probably had enough chances to win the game, but Swansea at times defended well. And after 3 clean sheets in a row, that will be promising too. Luke Williams starting to look at home after getting through that early difficult spell. And again, a very comfortable finish for Swansea, who could well be top of the bottom half. Not a bad effort at all. For this game, I was tempted to go for a Millwall 1-0 win again. But Swansea have done well against the sides near the bottom. So I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline. We got both to finish with 5 unbeaten, with a 1-1 draw at Swansea. And the final game has so much resting on it based on my predictions and based on West Bromwich Albion's position. They host Preston North End. Preston have lost 4 in a row. West Brom have lost 3 in a row. West Brom will be devastated with the defeat at Sheffield Wednesday. It wasn't a 3-0 game, but defensively, that was so un-Carlos Corberán-like. Obviously, they were unfortunate at Leicester. Obviously, against Sunderland, the red card made a big difference too. And for Preston, no goal in 4. Folded against Leicester and Southampton. Weren't great against Norwich or QPR. I mean, it sort of summed up their season. When they've had those difficult run of games, they were brilliant the first 8. They were brilliant for that 8 or 9 game spell in the second third of the season. But in between that, when they've played against the top half sides, they've just not regularly been able to compete. So that's a promising sign for West Brom going into this. But we all know how Preston are going to set up, and it isn't going to be aggressively. West Brom, defensively fairly mean for most of this season, albeit they've now conceded 5 in the last 2. But they've not scored anywhere near as many as the top 5, and that's going to be the question mark. I expect Hull to win at Plymouth, which will pile the pressure on. I guess it depends how early that goal comes. If West Brom Preston is 0-0 and Hull get themselves a goal, will West Brom then panic, or will they be comfortable thinking, look, a draw's enough with our goal difference? I really don't know how it's going to pan out. I can actually see Preston maybe nicking this one. I never thought West Brom would be missing out on the playoffs. I thought they were in 10 games ago. We've seen some funny old things in the finish to the season, haven't we? Although it's going to make my pre-season predictions look worse, I think this is where I'm going to throw in my surprise. I'm going to go for Preston to win by 1-0. And based on my other results, that will put Hull in the playoffs at their expense. From a pre-season prediction point of view, I'm hoping I'll be wrong. But I'm going to go for 1-0 Preston to finish off and get their first goal in 5 games, as both of them in awful form at the finish of the season. With that out of the way though, let's have a look at what I've gone for on the final day of this Championship season. Ipswich Town are going up in my book. I've gone for an emphatic 5-1 win at home to Huddersfield. Leeds will do their job against Southampton, but it won't be enough. Of course, in the battle for the playoffs, I've gone for Hull to win and Norwich to draw to secure their places, with West Brom's defeat meaning Hull are able to jump up to 6th. And then at the bottom end of the table, Huddersfield are down for me, and Birmingham, although they're going to get a draw against Norwich based on my predictions, will go down on goal difference due to Plymouth only being defeated narrowly by Hull. That means Sheffield Wednesday and Blackburn survive too. But do you agree or disagree with my predictions? Let me know in the comments below and give me yours for matchday 46. As I said at the start, if you do beat or match my overall score, you'll get a shout out in the next recap, which will be next week Thursday, when we look ahead to the playoff semi-final first legs. Which sides do you think will be in it? Could West Brom miss out? We'll find out all the answers on Saturday afternoon. If you did enjoy this one though, please do put a thumbs up on it. And if you want to stay up to date with everything across the podcast, including all of our EFL playoff predictions from the semi-finals and finals, our National League playoff final prediction and the final Premier League predictions of the season, then subscribe and turn that notification bell on for regular content from the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow to look ahead to the League One playoff semi-finals with the first legs on Friday night and Saturday afternoon. But thank you very much for being here as always, for joining me all season and getting involved. I really do appreciate it. I hope you do one more time. Fingers crossed though, I do better than I did last week.